All right, good evening, good morning, whatever it is when you happen to run into this. I thought I would try to show you another way to look at network design. This way uses some of those tools that you've actually examined in a discussion board looking at them. So the tool that I want to introduce you to do this is Project Libre. Fittingly, it's free. So it's a great way. So in fact, if I open up another tablet or another tab there, it's one of the tools that's out there. I like Microsoft Project. It's kind of overkill for a lot of things. It's also very expensive, as you discovered. So this actually allows you to do a lot of the same things. What it doesn't let you do is do some of the tie-ins then if you have Microsoft Office 365 or you're using Teams and those kinds of tools. So for a standalone device to create some things like some Gantt charts that we're going to look at and some other items, it's a really great tool. So I cheated just a little bit. I already put in the names of the items here. So if you look at our problem for week 2 assignment, I put in the activity name. So I put in the 9 activities. Now, we did not talk about these having any specific duration in this case. We're really just talking about what order they're going to go in and what predecessors. And as we get more complicated, we start adding more items. We start adding predecessors. We start adding times and other constraints. You can see that this might be a really good tool. And what you see over here is actually a Gantt chart. And that Gantt chart is over time. We can adjust some of these things depending on if we want to look at it weekly, monthly, how long we want to look at this Gantt chart. But right now, it looks like our project's going to happen in 1 day. Now, we all know that these are probably not 1-day activities, but for the sake of this, we're going to leave them all at 1, just so we can create a network diagram that's very similar. And in fact, if we click up here if we click View and then click Network, every task is assigned, but it's all here. None of them are attached to each other. So I want to go back and we want to look at kind of that main interface here where we start this Gantt. And in fact, if you scrolled across here, you'd see there's other things. We can put resources and predecessors. So I'm going to go through here and put some of the predecessors in here. And we can take a look at what happens to this in terms of overall project length. So let's see. So 2 is dependent on 1, as is 3. 5, 6, 4, 5, and finally 7, 8. So I can use a comma to separate them or a semicolon. It automatically converts it, so it's easier for me to grab the comma for whatever reason when I'm typing. So now you see that Gantt chart has expanded out a little bit. And in fact, if we were to put a different duration in there, so if we said that was actually going to take 15 days, you can see how it spreads that out significantly. Now, again, with no durations in there, this is a little artificial. Put it back to 1 day. But what you do see is we talk about something called that critical path. And in here, everything that's in red is going to be on that critical path. In other words, it's the longest path through there to complete the project in the shortest amount of time, which doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense right yet, but when you start seeing that you can do these activities concurrently, so that gives us the ability to compress that time frame, because this should be, in this case, 9 days, but what you'd actually see is, as it skips the weekend, is you could do this then in 8 days, it appears, of working time. And you can go in on an individual project and tweak that. So maybe your company works Saturdays. You can add that in, or whatever you need for your schedule. Most places here we're looking at Monday through Friday. You can go in and block out holidays, so you wouldn't necessarily work on the 4th of July or those kinds of things. And in fact, it's probably already, it is blocked out already for Monday. So, you can change those based, so if you're using other holidays or you're skipping some of them. So a lot of companies take holidays and will put them in a pool for over Christmas. If you're doing those kinds of things, you can do that. Well, when I put those predecessors in there, now I can take a look very quickly and I can look at what the network drawing looks like. So this is the similar thing to what you guys were going to draw. So this is the same thing. Now, it can look a little different because I can actually move some of these around. You'll discover in here. So I can move these around, but what we're still showing is that these elements require 7 and 8 to be done. These can't start until 1 is finished. So as we get more and more complicated, a tool like this is really critical to help you create some of those and try to manage them. It also lets you do a lot of these what-if things. What if logical system design took 2 days instead of 1? How does that affect my project? So, for example, this convert database, if I go back to my Gantt chart, and this convert database, which is the one piece in here that says it's not on the critical path, if that actually took 5 days, now take a look what happens. Because it takes longer and pushes out that entire project, now 2 other items are off the critical path, and item 8 or whatever becomes part of that critical path. So we can also then look and see what happens. Oh, if I get it down to 2 days, what happens? And interestingly, at 2 days, then, every item in here is on the critical path. So any item going long, for example, would then drag this project out over time. So these tools here, and this Project Libre, again, it's free, it's easy, you can get it for about any computer you want. There is a Mac version, there is a, if I remember right, there actually is even a Linux version, so you can grab that for about anything. So kind of an interesting organization. They are coming up with a cloud version that's going to be subscription based. So if you get used to this does look like we came out of 1994, some of these items, but it actually works really, really well. So for a lot of small businesses, if you need a project management tool, and you can do it all individually like this, you don't need that web-based portion. This is actually a really quick way to do that, even to plan out things. Once I've showed this to students, I've had a couple students even planned out their wedding on it, started adding in everything. So they had the work breakdown structure, which we haven't gotten into yet. How things were allocated and used and times. So it can actually do a lot, especially for being free. So that is the network diagram that I was kind of looking for. Some of you did some odd things. Some of it was issues with technology. So I saw a lot of things where you didn't have arrows or you didn't indicate which way. So in the future, this might be a great way, or a tool like Visio, or there's a lot of different ways to do it. But when we look at larger projects, and you'll see how we can plug in some other ones, and you can do that. So even the project for week 3, if you wanted to plug it in here, you could actually see some of those things happen here inside of something like Project Libre. All right, I thank you. I appreciate it, and thank you guys. I know it's been a little crazy summer. I'm back. I'm now in caregiving role, but it's kind of great to be back. My wife is doing amazing, and I thank everybody that sent out well wishes, and have a great 4th of July weekend, guys. Be safe.